Fire Emblem Awakening is my favorite game mode ever. I mean, besides Halo 2 of course, but that's a video for another time. It's surprising that even after 6 years this game is still being discussed. The only two arguments I ever hear being, it saved the series or ew, waifu! But I'm not here to evaluate its standing in the series. I'm V, the pizza boy, and this is the cut or unused content of Fire Emblem Awakening. First, I want to start off with some of the changed content from the eShop demo to the final game. To my knowledge, there was no change in items from the demo to the final game, only text changes. Some of my favorites being the game title changes. Mystery of the Emblem in the demo was just Emblem. Thracia 776 was just Thracia. Binding Blade was just Binding. And my favorite, Genealogy of the Holy War, was simply Lineage. As you can see, the text changes are very small changes, a majority of the time, like fixes in grammar and punctuation. However, that's not saying there aren't interesting text changes. In the demo, the text is, for lack of a better word, more colorful. In the demo, Cynthia would call her child Grasshopper as a reference to the 1984 movie The Karate Kid. However, in the final game, she calls them Kidda. The biggest changes are with the Hubba tester, as there was just too much to document for this one video. If you want to see all the changes, it will be in the description along with the rest of my sources. Now to move on to things left in the final game. Old Hubba actually has a roster entry, an old man who just showed up, mostly useless, though he can assess relationships. Oh, and he's a few millennia old or something, the one with the wildest love life, born on February 29th. Now before you say anything, no, Old Hubba was most likely not a playable character, as he has no textures, model, or stats. Furthermore, in his Japanese description, it states that he's terrible at fighting, and when the army actually is fighting, he sits in the corner of the convoy hidden by the luggage. Jerome has a critical portrait of him without his mask, but he never takes it off in battle. Philia has an unused critical portrait as well, but she was most likely not a playable character, and most have agreed she was to have a scripted critical before her death. However, there was a theory I remember hearing years ago that supports her being a playable character. In most Fire Emblem games, you get 3 different Pegasus Knights following 3 different archetypes. You have the young, inexperienced knight, the stoic, more serious one, and the mentor of the other 2. Now, in the final game, we do eventually get Cynthia, the 3rd Pegasus Knight, but she doesn't fall under a pre-existing archetype. She has her own personality of being, you know, dumb. If you didn't know, during the supports of the game shows the 2 characters facing each other, with a picture of the barracks in the background. However, in the files stored with Yarn, Muriel, Aversa, and Emeron's confessions, there is the full barracks, rendered in 3D rather than being in 2D. On the top of the confessions, there is an unused portrait of Gangrel's confession, with an early color scheme. Also, there are 2 unused Japanese confessions still in the game. This is Chrome's.
好きだ。これからはずっとお前のそばにいる。
And this is Lucina's.
今は素直に愛を語ることはできません。それでも私はいつもあなたを思っています。
Please note that I didn't translate these, so my theory is that these were made to test the confession system. They either didn't finish the script or hired actors yet. These are most likely developers who recorded the lines due to their lifeless performances and bad mic quality. They just needed to load the voice files without the game itself crashing. The most interesting of the cut content, the cut characters. This is the list of characters. Highlighted in the list are 3 characters, Leopold, Tracy, and Andrea. Who these 3 are, however, are unknown, since they do not have any in-game representation. These names are all that remains of them. Or is it? These are most likely not new or cut characters. If you look closely, this list is out of order, since Thorja is listed after Noe and before Gregor. So, We can guess who these people are without putting them in an exact chapter. Tracy is most likely a man, since there are no extra child units. We can conclude that Tracy is indeed male, then he would most likely be Libra, since he is listed close to Tharja. For Leopold, I think I have an idea who he might be, for Rika reasons. Leopold may very well be Long Ku, simply because I don't see him anywhere else. Andrea might be Yen Fei, but again, because his name isn't seen in the list. However, this one is more supported than Leopold, since Andrea is listed with the other late game characters and the spot pass characters. There was a lot to Fire Emblem Awakening that I just wasn't able to talk about today, which were mostly just things that you can't see by playing normally. However, this isn't the end of the video. Nintendo is infamous for censoring and or localizing changes in their games, and unfortunately, Fire Emblem Awakening was not immune to this trend. The original Japanese My Unit system had 3 different voices per gender, like the international releases. However, what made these voices unique is that they weren't strictly voices, but also different personalities, meaning a majority of the text was different per voice. There was even a 4th option for each gender, where they would simply have no voice, like Fire Emblem Blazing Blade, where other people would talk for your character. The choice of personalities and the mute options were removed from all other versions. Despite this, the main game barely has any changes. There are some character changes, but I'm not 100% sure on these, so I don't want to present false claims. There was, however, changes between the US releases and the European release. Most of them were grammatical changes or fixes in continuity. An example of a continuity fix is in Robin and Lissa's C support, as Robin will mention Risen even if the player hasn't encountered any Risen in the storyline yet. In the European versions, however, mentions of Risen were replaced by bandits. Also, paralogs were changed to side stories, and xenologues were replaced to Outrealm Tales or simply Outrealm. Now for the most infamous changes between versions. During the DLC Summer Scramble, many of the exchanges were censored, specifically Tharja's exchanges with Noe, in which Noe compliments Tharja's boingy bits and says they are as white as snow and soft as pillows. Let me remind you, quote,
Fire Emblem Awakening is a tactical role-playing video game.
And finally, the most infamous censors of the Fire Emblem Awakening, Tharja. More specifically, Summer Scramble. Yep, this is real. The censored actually looks worse than the original. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and a subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. All my sources are in the description, and I think next time I'll do a video on Echoes. So if you want to see that, just subscribe. Thanks.